Once upon a time, in a small village nestled deep in the woods, there lived a young girl named Lily who lived with her grandmother, Baba Yaga. They were very poor and lived all alone in a small hut that was perched high up on chicken legs in the middle of a clearing in the forest. Baba Yaga was a witch, but she was a good witch who used her magic to help the villagers with their problems and heal the sick and injured ones. One day, a terrible plague swept through the village, leaving death and destruction in its wake. The villagers pleaded with Baba Yaga to save them, but she told them that she had no more power to stop the plague than she did to stop the passing of time itself. The only one who could help them was the queen of the underworld herself, and she was notoriously difficult to find and even more difficult to convince to help those in need. Lily was determined to save the villagers and decided to seek out the queen herself in the underworld despite the warnings from her grandmother about the dangers that awaited her there. She set out into the forest, guided by her instincts and the whispers of the spirits that roamed among the trees. As night fell and she made her way deeper into the forest, Lily heard strange noises coming from all around her, and she felt a sense of unease wash over her like a chill breeze on an autumn night. She pressed on despite the fear she felt in her heart and kept reminding herself of the importance of what she was doing for the sick and dying villagers back in the village. Suddenly, she found herself standing on the edge of a deep ravine that seemed to stretch on for miles below her feet, and she realized that she wasn't alone. There was a man standing with her at the edge of the cliff, and he was staring at her with a strange look on his face that she couldn't quite read. She tried to walk away, but he reached out his hand to her and said, "Don't be afraid, little one. I can help you if you come with me to the underworld." Lily was hesitant to trust this stranger, but she also knew that if she wanted to save the villagers she had to take the risk and follow him to the underworld. Together, they journeyed through the dark and dangerous underworld, and they encountered countless creatures and spirits along the way who tried to mislead them and turn them away from their path, but they persevered and finally found themselves standing in front of the throne room of the Queen of the Underworld. Lily begged the queen to help save the villagers from the plague, and she agreed to do so, but only if Lily could perform a task for her that would seem impossible for any mortal to accomplish. The queen told Lily that she had to gather the tears from 1,000 weeping souls and return with them to the palace within the space of one night in order to receive her help for the villagers. Lily was distraught, but she knew that there was no turning back now, and she was determined to save the villagers no matter what the cost would be to her or to herself, so she set off into the underworld with a determination that she never knew she possessed to find and gather the tears from 1,000 weeping souls before sunrise if she was to have any chance of saving the people back in her village. Despite encountering countless obstacles and facing her own fears and doubts every step of the way, she never lost sight of her goal, and as she gathered more and more tears from the souls of those who had wept for their loved ones who were lost to the plague, she gained a new sense of purpose and power within herself that she hadn't known existed before this journey into the underworld. With only a few tears left to collect before dawn broke over the land of the living once more and the portal to the underworld closed behind her forever, she found herself racing against time itself to get to the palace and deliver the tears to the queen of the underworld before her chance to save them was lost forever. Just as the sun began to rise and the first rays of light touched the land of the living in the far distance, she arrived at the palace gates with the tears of 1,000 weeping souls safely gathered in her hand, and she presented them to the queen, who looked at her with a knowing smile and told her that she had succeeded in completing her task. The queen of the underworld could not refuse such a sacrifice and took pity on the dying villagers back in the village and used her own powerful magic to send a cure to them that would save their lives and end the scourge of the terrible plague that had ravaged their small community for so long. And from that day forward, the people of the village always remembered the brave young girl who had risked everything to save them and the evil queen of the underworld who became their ally and saved them from certain death at the hands of the deadly plague that had swept through their lands all those years ago. And they lived happily ever after.